Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
We're putting up new buildings, we're knocking down the old. We're working in the summer heat and in the winter cold. And the labour power we sell, me boys, for a hard-earned weekly pay produces mighty profits for the greedy MBA. And whether we were born here or born in Italy, in Greece, in Spain or Ireland, in England or Fiji, we all of us are workers, united we must stand, until the wealthy bludgers have been driven from our land. We faced deregistration, it backfired in the face. We're not fooled by arbitration, we won't stay in our place. We hit the bosses hard and fast to win and keep our gains, and break a couple of concrete pours to back our log of claims. So keep your powder dry and hold your head up high. It's class to class and face to face, our limit is the sky. We've got a fighting history and we never will be cowed. Our builders' labour is a name to make a man feel proud.
And it's indeed a very good morning from the Concrete Gang, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and good morning, Gorilla. A good morning, Buzzer. Good morning, Campo. Good morning, Goanna. Good morning, Annie.
Good morning, mate.
Yes, indeed. It is obviously been a very, very trying break. And on the 10th day, I think it is, this being broadcast on Sunday, the 10th day, it's all been too much for them, and they've had to have a rest before they go back to work tomorrow.
Yep, nobody turned up.
So never mind, it is what it is. We all have a cross to bear at Easter. Ho, ho, ho. Righto, we should just say that the Easter break was very well observed around the industry. There's a few people who snuck out. I noticed that Aspect, a little mob up in Nidri, snuck out to put up a few panels on Wednesday afternoon, thanks to Brent Young Cranes, and so on and so forth. But overwhelmingly, people took the opportunity. The weather was too good, and common sense reigned supreme, because everywhere people were making the most of the break. And who knows how quickly winter will come. We're already at the end of April, and May usually starts getting chilly. So I guess there will be some people who didn't take the Easter break, the whole 10 days, regretting it, because they probably won't get another opportunity this side of probably Cup weekend. Righto, let's have a little talk about what didn't happen over Easter, and that's the truce. The election truce that was announced by conjointly by Bill and Shitmo, and they said they weren't going to campaign over Easter and they weren't going to campaign on Anzac Day, and all you saw was their ugly mugs on the media non-stop. And unfortunately for those of us who were on the roads, the other ugly mugs were Clive Palmer and Pauline Hanson. Driving on Eastlink, I got to tell you, to see the big orange sign with Pauline Hanson was just too much for me. I nearly went off the road. But never mind. Hopefully it's only a matter of a few weeks to go and it'll all be over and done with, because I think everyone's been well and truly sick of it. Annie, I'm sure that you have not exactly enjoyed the coverage.
Well, I was wondering, as I was saying to you, why would Clive Palmer expect to be voted for? But you had an insight into this.
Well, my insight into this is Clive Palmer's in so much trouble at Queensland Nickel and all the other things he's been involved in. He wants to put himself in a negotiating position, he thinks, with government in Queensland, and particularly a Shitmo government. He's got a chance to negotiate himself a deal because he's got a bit of a problem.
Well, you know, people say, it took me a while to work out why this man would say that he doesn't owe any of his workers anything. And the reason for why he thinks he doesn't owe any of the workers anything is because because he's gone into bankruptcy or whatever, and so
put Queensland Nickel into bankruptcy.
Yeah, and so it's the receivers. It's their fault that the workers haven't got paid. But that's just really, drawing a long bow, isn't it?
No, that's all legally legit. It's called the corporate veil. Once your company, proprietary limited, is in administration, bankruptcy, you don't have to pay nothing.
That's right.
Of course, it's a contradiction with Easter, isn't it? Because I bet Clive does, he swears on the Bible, he thinks himself to be a Christian gentleman. Well, there's a moral obligation too, and I reckon you don't have to be a Christian or anyone in any way religious to have moral obligations, and he's failed all his moral obligations. But he's still got money, and he's spreading it around, and everywhere you go you see his great big buff head on a yellow background.
I know, it's really weird.
Never mind. We should just mention a couple of things to keep in mind during the next few weeks with this election campaign. Our mate, Shitmo, doesn't mind putting his hand up for God. He gets very enthusiastic about God, but he doesn't get very enthusiastic about the future of the planet. And if the Lord indeed created the earth in 7 days or 6 days and rested on the seventh, well, you would want to keep it going. But no, our mate, Mr. Morrison, the Prime Minister, he doesn't care about climate change. He doesn't care even about the so-called tax cuts, because they're not going to happen on the 1st of July. And in fact, it's highly unlikely they're going to happen too quickly for most people. But don't let that get in the way of a good pray-up. So anyway, people have every right to worship their God in their own way. But gee whiz, the old hypocrisy still shows up.
Yeah. As they're going out the door, before they called the election, they passed a whole range of things that are really damaging to the environment. They even passed a licence to a uranium mine.
Yep, the biggest uranium mine approved in decades, and it's all down at a place in Western Australia, just north of Kalgoorlie. And apparently the environmental impact statement done by the West Australian government was negative.
This is Liberal brand.
Yeah, Liberal brand. And then our good mates, one day before the election was called, approved it, and guess what? It only got announced basically on Anzac Day.
Unbelievable.
Anyway, when you're working for the super rich, as was exposed by the people who went to the big shindig on Sydney Harbour over Easter and put their millions into helping Shitmo get re-elected, they were all having a big pray-up too that he was somehow going to get home. Anyway, there you go, folks. Getting a bit jaundiced in my old age, but shit begets shit. And unfortunately, we're going to have to put up with it a few more weeks yet. Now, before we get on to some other stuff about the industry,
You've now got complete control over the music.
Yes, I've got complete control over the music, and believe it or not, I think I sometimes have complete control even when other people are here. But what we're going to do is we're going to play a couple of tracks, and the first up is a classic from New Orleans, from the Big Easy, Huey Piano Smith, and Rockin' Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie Blues.
I wanna jump, but I'm afraid I'll fall. I wanna holler, but the giant's too small.
Don't fight the blues. Concrete gang, here to stay. Don't fight the blues. There to struggle, there to win.
There you go, Rockin' Pneumonia and the Boogie Woogie Blues. Now, I'm free and easy here when I'm playing music today because all the critics aren't here, of course. But,
That's right.
I've got to say, that particular track is compliments of the Gorilla. He got some music over there in the Big Easy when he was on holidays, and I must say I totally agree with some of it. In fact, most of it. So Louisiana's going to get featured by yours truly over the next couple of months because really Louisiana has more to offer than anywhere else in the United States in all terms of in all types of music, whether it's traditional jazz all the way through to New Orleans funk, Cajun music, Zydeco, boogie woogie, you name it. It's all had a great big start in New Orleans, and I'll be featuring quite a few people from all these different aspects of music over the next few months. But when the others are here, I suppose I'll let them play some of their tracks. Anyway, moving along, let's talk about one other thing that hasn't changed just because there's an election on. And in fact, it may have even got worse because there is an election on, and that's the activities of the ABCC and Steve McBurney, the boss of the ABCC.
God, they're amazing, aren't they?
They are really going hard. They are desperate to whack on as many prosecutions as they possibly can, in the belief that even if Labor were to win the election on the 18th of May, all those charges still have to be dealt with. And that would be a parting gift from the Morrison, Turnbull, Abbott government, because they're all part of it. And the latest is in relation to Western Australia, and there are charges being laid against individual workers as well as officials out of a dispute at the Perth airport, which was a John Holland job. Absolute disgrace as a job. Absolute disgrace as a job. People ripped off, health and safety.
They weren't paying people.
That's right. Absolute disgrace. And because people try to do something to put the pressure on, everyone is now being prosecuted for illegal industrial action. But what they did, over and above just arranging for the papers to be served at the union office, which is normally what happens, what they decided to do was go knocking on people's doors over Easter.
Unbelievable.
To basically intimidate people into kowtowing to the ABCC, and probably also hoping that people will give up other people so that the prosecution will be successful. But anyway, people are sticking, and good on them. But this is going to continue right up till the 18th of May. Make no mistake.
So unfair.
And the ACT has also, I don't know too much about the matter, but there was a dispute took place in Canberra, and I don't think it was a particularly big dispute, but our good friends, the ABCC, have decided to prosecute that particular matter. And I'm sure between McBurney, the ABCC, and their cheer squad in the Morrison, Turnbull, Abbott government, that this will go on right up till the 18th of May.
Yeah, imagine what it must be like at their offices. You know, they sit down and they're planning their strategy. You know, we're going to do this over Easter.
They got their hit list and they're working their way through it.
Unbelievable.
Can't say they're not conscientious.
No.
But I suppose they're on a bonus. So maybe that will explain it. But certainly the question...
Ideological warriors, those ones.
The question is going to be, all these prosecutions, what is their status after the election? If the Labor Party is elected, or if our friend Mr Morrison loses because he can't form a government and there is some kind of messy situation, what happens to those prosecutions then? Do they proceed or are they withdrawn? Because when the ABCC, the code on which they operate, were to disappear, and the Labor Party has promised to get rid of the code and the ABCC, at what point do any legal actions disappear? And just going back in history...
A bit like the Avengers, you know, the Avengers movie where they'd all turn to leaves.
Oh, good.
And blow into the wind.
Well, they all dry up and disappear would be great. But I'm just going back in history because people were prosecuted under the McMahon government and the Gorton government for Liberal governments prior to the election of the Whitlam government in 72.
Yeah.
And those of us who suffered successful prosecutions for failing to comply with the National Service Act were actually absolved and got a letter from the Attorney General's Department, I think it was, under the Whitlam government saying all prosecutions, all matters outstanding and all fines, etc., are now withdrawn.
Oh, that's really interesting.
That was a good result at the time, as I remember.
Yeah.
Being in my early 20s, it was saved me a bit of money. But listen, what will be the case with this legislation under a code which has not got the support of a new government and an organisation which equally does not have the support of a new government? So it's going to be very interesting, folks. Let's hope that it's a good result like in 1972. Now, moving along, casualisation. People have been talking about casualisation, and now the OECD, an organisation of the rich Western powers and some of the major Asian powers, economic powers, have now identified as Australia as having casualisation over and above what occurs elsewhere. In fact, something like 1 in 4 is a casual worker. And over Easter, there was a lot of people who did not get paid penalty rates because of the decision of the Fair Work Commission, or as I prefer to call it, the Unfair Work Commission. And they obviously are trying to make a living, and it seems to be the young and those on the bottom of the pile who are having to work more than one casual job with no guarantee of minimum hours. Undertakings have been made by the Labor Party, but I don't know that this can be turned around, because what the OECD also mentions in its annual report, that automation is going to get rid of a lot of these jobs. So there's going to be even less casual work for people to fight over, and it's going to give bosses an even better position to attack basic wages and conditions. But it's going to be the issue that a new government of whatever particular colour is going to have to deal with, because if indeed automation of even making coffee is going to become overwhelming, something like 14 to 20% of jobs at the moment can be automated, then casuals are going to be on the bottom of the pile even worse than they are now.
You know, when they say automated, you know, like coffee and stuff, what they mean is that they're transferring all the labour costs to the person who actually, the customer. That's what they're doing. They're offloading all the labour costs and the frustration to the customer.
So, folks, there's a lot hanging on this election, and certainly what's going to happen in the next 5 years to 10 years in this country. Now, we should also just mention a couple of health and safety matters. We haven't got a lot happening this week, so we haven't got too many scallywags, but a couple of matters left over from pre-Easter. Chevron, big mining company, who conduct operations at Gorgon in Western Australia, are being investigated for the problem of toxic chemicals.
That's right.
Being vented on site to the health detriment of workers on site. And it has been going on now for some time, and it doesn't look like it's improving. And in this state, the wonderful state of Victoria, the PFAS problem, which is a chemical, a carcinogenic, which is being excavated down in Westgate Tunnel territory, especially along Footscray Road. All that stuff is being piled up, and it's been so dry, only needs the wind to come up, and this stuff will be spreading all over the inner suburbs and docklands. And the problem has
But
not
it's covered
been...
in black plastic.
Oh, yes, that's going to work a treat, isn't it? Tends to blow off in the wind. Anyway, let's hope it's for the sake of everyone's health that it is damp. It doesn't have to be a raining torrents, but it needs to be damp to keep a lot of this dust under control. But PFAS is a major issue, which has been, as we said before Easter, discussed at the ILO in Geneva in the last couple of weeks. And it's a matter that's going to have to be addressed not only by the contractors, but unfortunately the state government is going to have to take a major role in this.
You know, I was walking past the art centre, you know, up that ramp. There were two young blokes who were doing some repairs. They were using a saw, and there was this huge amount of dust, and neither of them had earmuffs on. Have people forgotten?
The bigger problem is the danger of silicosis, the dust.
The dust.
The fact that there is dry cutting going on, as has been demonstrated in a number of areas, is a huge problem, because silicosis is making a comeback, especially in some of the fake stone product, which is being used for kitchen bench tops and so on.
I think workers need to think about their own health here.
Well, I think there's a campaign started late last year, and it's going to have to continue at an even greater rate. Righto, we ain't got many scallywags. But
what about the blokes who didn't turn up this morning?
Well, let's just say it is Easter, and we have a cross to bear. Righto.
All right.
So, scallywags I've got Steve McBurney and the ABCC, and obviously John Hollands for dobbing people in Western Australia and so on. Absolute disgrace if you have to visit workers at home, because let's just say in Victoria we've never had a problem with, if anyone's been prosecuted, they send the paperwork to our lawyers and we deal with it.
Talk about scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Yep. Now, Aspect is a little builder who was operating on Wednesday afternoon up in Nidri. And let me say also that I'm going to keep nominating John Hollands and CPB at Westgate for this PFAS problem, because I think this is a much bigger issue than people have given credit to. And last but not least, Shitmo. Shitmo for whinging about people criticising. And I think people have got a right to worship in their own way, but when you can get enthusiastic about God, but not get enthusiastic about what God has supposedly created. And in fact, it's going down the shit heap at 100 mile an hour in terms of climate change, the Great Barrier Reef, uranium mining, you name it. Methinks that it smells of hypocrisy. So, who are we going for, Annie, with the scallywags?
Well, it's a close one between McBurney and Shipmo, I'd have to go.
Well, my suggestion is Steve McBurney and the ABCC for dedication above and beyond as winners of Scallywags, and Shitmo for having a sook up.
Yeah, for being a sook.
Anyway, let's go, folks, with our good friend Steve McBurney and the ABCC for Scallywag of the Week, and Shitmo for having a sook up. Yes, you've got a right to pray, but, mate,
get a grip.
Get a grip. There's a whole lot of important issues that you should be praying about. Righto, we're going to go out in the same old way. Dare to struggle, dare to win. If you don't fight, you lose. Good morning from the Concrete Gang, and we're going to go out with Jesse Hill and Upapadu.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.